Welcome on into the BKL Nightly Game Day Recap Show. I'm Thad Brown. Rachel Labbert will join me in a little while. The Bills do get the win over the Browns, 23-20. The final, it was not pretty. It was not nearly as one-sided as I think most of us thought it would be. The odds makers had it as a 10.5-point favorite for the Bills going in. They did not play like a 10.5-point favorite, at least not after the first 20 or 25 minutes of the game. The opening part of this game offensively was very good, but there was a lot to be desired with the way the Bills played in the second half, and certainly on defense, there were a lot of issues all game long. We're going to get to the good. We're going to get to the bad. We're going to have Sean McDermott and Josh Allen live from the podium when they do hit that podium after this game. Also, if you want to comment yourself, you can at my Twitter feed, ThadBrown7, my X feed, whatever we call it now. Post your comments there. Also, the News 8 Facebook page. You can comment there as well, and we will talk about all that stuff. Let's start with the good here, because there's going to be a giant chunk of good and a giant chunk of bad about the Bills from this game. Number one, at the very end, Greg Rousseau was a big reason why this game was saved for the Bills. Couple of big sacks late in this one, got a fourth down stop on the second to last possession, and then on the last possession, the pressure that led to the intentional grounding that set the Browns back up at 3rd and 33 on their own goal line. It won't go down as a sack, but it should. It essentially was a sack because he won the rep and he was able to force the penalty that Shedeur Sanders had throwing the ball away. For a guy who has not been very impactful most of the year, a guy that at different times we've talked about not being able to get enough pressure on the quarterback. I've been saying that the underlying stuff with Greg Rousseau has been better than the sack numbers would tell you, but it still hasn't been the kind of year that you want from a guy who just got paid in the offseason. A guy who's supposed to be, at the very least, your 1A pass rusher, maybe your 2, but a guy you can count on to be impactful. And it hasn't happened a lot, but in this game it was. When the Bills needed somebody to step up and save this thing at the end, Greg Rousseau did exactly that. So give 50 credit for being able to make those plays. Was the rookie quarterback maybe a little deer in the headlights stuff a part of it? Sure. But Rousseau cleanly won both of those reps at the end of the game and was able to take advantage of a not great offensive tackle and a not great quarterback. That's what you're supposed to do. That's why the Bills have 11 wins right now and the Browns have a whole bunch of losses. So give Rousseau credit for that. The other part of this game, or the part of this Bills team that I was very impressed by today, was both safeties. Cole Bishop and Jordan Poyer, especially in the second half, over and over and over, made game-saving and game-deciding plays. The Cole Bishop play, to get around the screen when it's Bishop against an offensive lineman and a running back, one of the best safety plays you will ever see. Josh Allen, by the way, already at the podium. This game ended early, so we'll have a lot of time to get this stuff, but right now it's time for Josh Allen.
Ball game. It obviously wasn't the prettiest way we can win. Got some stuff to clean up, but we'll take a victory.
What happened? Midway through the second quarter, you guys were smoking, and then it all went away. What happened?
Well, they get paid too on that side to make adjustments and make plays, and I feel like starting with me just didn't make enough plays, especially in that second half, taking the boneheaded sack there right before half, not giving us a chance to double dip. So a lot of stuff to clean up, a lot to learn from, but we'll take it.
On that play, what happened and how did you get injured or whatever?
Yeah, just tweaked my foot a little bit, just flamed up on me a little bit, pain subsided, so we're good.
Did you feel like the injury impacted you at all in the second half?
No, I don't think so.
On the drop to Matt's touchdown, what was the I mean, it was wide open. I understand that, but the quarterback sneaks worked pretty good for you guys for a long time. Why did you do what you did?
Well, if I remember correctly, it was 4th and 2. Those are typically tough to get, getting a sneak. So anytime it's longer than really one, you're kind of holding on to yourself there. So I love the play call. Play was there, and I can get it out to him a little bit quicker. And yeah, we know what happens there. So it's all good.
You guys weren't able to run the ball as well in the second half, especially in early downs. What would you attribute that to?
They were making plays. They found something that was working for them, and at the end of the day, though, last drive, they knew we were running it. We had to run it, and we did, and got the first.
What did you see on that Dalton play? It looked like he made a great catch. Obviously, it wasn't a rule catch, but what did you see on that play?
Yeah, man-to-man, throw him a fade. Yeah, I mean, close one. Those are, game of football, game of inches. So, we know we'll make these plays, and, I got to continue to keep throwing them and giving our guys opportunities.
What can you say about the offensive line pretty much keeping Miles Garrett neutralizing this one?
Yeah, they did fantastic. The game plan going into it, getting some hands on him early, giving him different looks. So that's a credit to the offensive staff and our offensive line.
You mentioned the sack earlier, Josh. Was that just maybe trying to do too much of that?
100%. Yeah, just throw it away.
What was your reaction to James' long touchdown run?
I mean, it's unbelievable. I threw my hand up early, then I put it down. I was like, oh, he's tackled. Then I put it up again after he ran. I mean, he's the best back in football. I don't know how awards shake out, but I mean, he should be in the running for every award. He's an absolute stud. We love having him, and he makes our offense go.
You guys tried to make the play to put it away, and then it was the defense. Tell me about what you saw from your own defense at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it time and time again throughout the year, having to go out there and make a play, and they continue to do it. So it's obviously great to see that out there, and those guys getting after the quarterback.
There was a third down to Khalil that looked like it would have gone for a lot of yards.
Yeah.
Was there a miscommunication there, or was that?
I just missed a throw. Yeah, just missed a throw.
Josh, going back to the defense, your reaction just watching Greg kind of take over and late in that situation.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, anytime you're coming off the sideline, you're kind of ticked off that you didn't finish the game in your own hands and how you wanted to do it. But then opportunities for our defense to go out there and make plays and get those reps and show how good of a defense they are. So it's great to know that we've got a defense that can go out there and do that and make big plays when they need to.
We bring up the turnovers whenever you make them. Don't bring them up when you don't make them. How important is that to be able to go on the road and not turn the ball over, even when you're struggling offensively?
I mean, yeah, it's awesome. I consider fourth downs turnovers. I don't know if it's an official turnover, but we didn't get one. We should have got it on the third down. Again, that was on me. But anytime that we don't score, we feel like it's a letdown for us. We have that type of mindset. We've got the guys that are more than capable to go out there and score on every drive. Obviously, that's not extremely realistic week in and week out, but that's our mindset. Every time we step on the field, we want to score touchdowns, and we got to do a better job of that.
There wasn't much of anything really in the passing games, you're reflecting. But yeah, this is another game where you really didn't get anything from your wide receivers. Like, is this a thing? It's happening week after week. At some point, is that going to come up and bite you? Did you just not get anything from your
Again, we're going to keep working. I can help put our guys in better situations and give them better opportunities. But again, anytime you can run the ball with James Cook, and with the success that we were having early, that's we're going to continue to do that, and it's going to open things up. So just got to keep trusting it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, there you go. Josh Allen talking to the media after the Bills' 23-20 win. Thad Brown here. Rachel Liebert has joined us here for the postgame show. We're going to be on again until 5 o'clock here talking about the Bills and the Browns. Sean McDermott will be at the podium in a little while. We will go to him live as well. Rachel, let's get back to what we were talking about with the game. And I want to start with the good parts of this game. I talked about Greg Rousseau with a couple of big sacks at the end of the game. And then the other part of it that I was really impressed by was the Bills' safeties. And started with Cole Bishop. The play he makes on the screen to get around an offensive lineman and make a tackle with no help at all out there is an incredible play. He had another play. The Browns were killing the Bills on the end-around stuff, the reverse stuff, and he stayed home, made a stop that eventually got into a fourth down stop on the second-to-last possession. And Jordan Poyer had a big tackle on a third down screen that set up the field goal, the last points the Browns scored. So when you talk about positives from this game, those are the three guys to me that stand out the most. You can go either guys you liked or comment on one of those three guys.
I mean, for sure, Jordan Poyer, I think, was the one that stood out to me. I don't know his official.
I can give that to you while you're talking. Go ahead.
Yeah, my stats aren't loading here. But I mean, we've been talking about just how much it seems like maybe the safety group has struggled, and even just the secondary in general. So I feel like even though the Browns put up 20 points that we didn't think the Browns were going to put up, there wasn't really a glaring issue, at least in the defensive backfield. So, I mean, to your point, I think Jordan Poyer had a great game. Cole Bishop, I think he did there was one play he got burnt a little, but then I think it was one or two plays after that kind of rebounded. So I think overall for that group, I mean, it is a net positive, even though the score might not really reflect that.
to your question, Jordan Poyer had a team high 11 tackles, 6 were solo, half a sack on the blitz, tackle for a loss, which I think was the swing pass we talked about, a pass breakup, a quarterback hit. He pretty much checked every box in the stat sheet, which we're going to talk a lot about just this game. But in the big picture of this Bills defense, the idea that Jordan Poyer is a game-saving player, even against an offense like the Browns, which is about as bad as it gets, that is a mind-blowing experience, because if you had told me when the Bills signed him that they would need to rely on Jordan Poyer to kind of save parts of their season and he would do it, I would have, told you you're an idiot. And this is exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, is this a positive or is this obviously it's a positive for Jordan Poyer and the fact that he's doing that, but is that a net positive for the fact that it has to be Jordan Poyer? Like,
yes.
It's hard to kind of navigate what the reality of that is. But I mean, it's a good thing that he's doing it and someone's doing it, but it kind of makes you think, okay, what is the state of the defense as a whole? You
do not want to have to depend on, you would think, Jordan Poyer to save this season against the Broncos or against the Chargers or against maybe the Patriots, even if they're going to be a team the Bills see again. Regardless, he did do it in this game. Cole Bishop continued to play well. As he had 7 tackles himself, also had a tackle for a loss. Matt Milano, 9 tackles and a tackle for loss. He's been better. I don't think he was good as a lot of people thought last week with the 2 sacks, but regardless, he's been active. And the way Shaq Thompson has had a couple of poor games the last couple of weeks, I know the injury today was probably a part of the story, but Milano's been, the last 2 weeks at least, the best linebacker for the Bills. So there were guys on the defensive side of this team that stepped up, and we'll talk more about them a little bit as this show goes on. But I think the parts of this game that people are going to talk about most about the Bills will be the negatives. And we can go any number of places to talk about that. The first thing that I want to bring up quick after Josh Allen just talked about what happened in this game, and he got a question about, look, your receivers haven't done a whole lot. Are you guys going to be able to live with that? And Josh like, well, when we're running the ball well, we can get away with it. And that's a fine answer in most cases. And in the first half of this game, James Cook had 100 yards on 9 carries. And it looked like that would be the story, that the Bills would be able to get away with just running the ball all day and not needing the receivers. Well, James Cook had 17 yards in the second half. And this Bills team, let me see if I had the total. The Bills ran for 31 yards as a team in the second half. So the run game was not there in the second half against a defense that's really been getting killed by the run in the second half of the season. Rachel, the lack of receiving impact and ability and help for Josh Allen stuck out like a sore thumb the entire 60 minutes of this game.
Yeah, it's stuck out the last 15 weeks. I mean,
that's true too.
It's weird because the Bills, they keep saying, well, we have James Cook, like essentially saying, okay, it's okay when we don't have these receivers because we have such a good running back. But it's also, I mean, I feel like Josh Allen, I mean, that's just a textbook answer that you probably would expect him to give regardless. But it's just weird because at some point you feel like that's not going to work as a formula. I mean, but it has worked for the majority of the season. So it's kind of like this toss up of, okay, we're sitting here saying this probably isn't going to work in the playoffs, but it has worked for the majority of the season. So it's like, I don't know where you have to have good receivers. I mean, the passing game is a glaring issue. And then when you rely on your tight ends and then your tight ends don't, I mean, they played well today, but then you have, issues with them as well. It's hard to even really, like, for me to paint a complete picture of like the state of this offense and how far they can actually take things, because we've just seen so much inconsistency in the running game, in the passing game. It's just, I don't know. I'm like kind of in a toss-up from the outcome of this one.
I mean, the run game has worked, but not consistently. He had 168 last week against the Patriots, 183 against the Bengals. Those are both great numbers. 249, obviously the ridiculous game against the Steelers. Before that, though, 143 against Houston. A lot of that was first couple drives. 97 against Tampa, 87 against Miami. It's come and gone. It's not been something the Bills can rely on 17 weeks out of 17. So there's certainly question about whether or not that's going to be enough. Now, the Eagles kind of sort of last year, more or less rode a run game to a championship. Yeah. I don't think as good as James Cook is, he's as good as Saquon Barkley was last year. As good as this offensive line is, I don't think they're as good as the offensive line was last year. Now, the Bills have the better quarterback, so maybe you can, if you want to play the comparison game, you can make up for that. But then we get into whether the defense can make up for it too, and I don't want to get bogged down in that whole discussion. I think the problem is not that the Bills may or may not be able to rely on the run game. The problem is right now it looks like they can't rely on the receiving group no matter
they don't
what.
Have a choice,
exactly.
Really. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly what you said. I don't understand. I mean, I understand, but it's just hard for me to, you would think that some receiver would be coming to the forefront of being at least some sort of leader, and it just hasn't happened at all. And you have Josh Allen, and that's the crazy part, is that you have your MVP quarterback, but you don't have a receiver that's sticking out, and you're relying on your run game. It's just, I don't know. It's a formula that's not going to set them up for success. I mean, today, Shakir had 34 yards was the high, but then you have Jackson Hawes was their second most. And I mean, Jackson Hawes having their second most receiving yards is not something that you want to see, I guess, from this everybody eats offense.
No. Terrell Shavers had 21. After that, Josh Palmer 1 catch for 2. So your receiving production today was 6 catches for 57 was the whole day. For comparison, Chris Olave had 6 for 58.5 today.
Yeah.
So this is just not good enough. And this is a Browns defense that did not have Denzel Ward today. So it wasn't like they had a shutdown corner sitting back there. Let's talk about the experiment the Bills kind of played today at receiver, because that's a part of the story. It was Mecole Hardman and it was Brandon Cooks in, Gabe Davis and Keon Coleman out. I will say that we talked about this early in the afternoon when the game started. My initial reaction was, well, all right, I guess we can roll the dice with the fast guys. You get to let Hardman run back some punts here and there. Let's see how this works. And without looking back at the film, it didn't seem like it worked. Not only not improving on what the Bills had done previously, this might be worse than what we've seen from the Bills.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't have any production at all. So, I mean, the Brandon Cooks not catch that the Josh Allen threw the dot to him doesn't catch that. I mean, I feel like, okay, it's fine at this point in the season. You want to see what you're working with because you haven't really worked with anything. And this is a Cleveland team that, okay, you can probably do that against. But still, I mean, it's hard for me to even figure out what the plan, where do they even go from here with this receiver room? I mean, there's nobody that you can rely on at this point. I mean, Shavers does well when he's given an opportunity most of the time. I mean, Shakir is somewhat reliable, but I don't know. This is a weird result. I did not think it was going to be a 3-point game, so I thought we'd have a little clearer of okay, they experimented with this and maybe this worked, maybe this didn't. But I mean, and then Keon Coleman is a whole separate thing. I mean, of where do we go from here with Keon? But we could discuss that another time. But,
yeah,
I mean,
well, we'll probably talk about. We got another 45 minutes. We got time to talk about it here too.
True.
We'll get into that as well. The thing I want to go back to, and you brought this up, what do the Bills do now?
Yeah,
because it felt like they were spinning the dial. Let's try this group and see how it goes. This group did not work.
Didn't go anywhere.
There's nothing that comes out of this that you think you want to. I guess we'll look at the film and see. Like you said, Brandon Cooks was open a little bit on one play, and Josh Allen throws a great pass. He doesn't make the catch. Do I give him credit for getting open a little bit as I take credit away for dropping the ball? I don't know. Bottom line is, this group of 5, you probably can't run out again. I'm a little surprised they've sat Gabe Davis down the last couple weeks. Mm-hmm. That would be the one guy who you may not get a ton out of him in terms of upside as a receiver, but he can block as well as anybody on the team, and you'll get production. You'll get 3 for 30. You'll get stuff, which is more than what the Bills got from most of the guys who they played today. So I think next week will be we'll try something else. We'll throw something else on the wall and see if that sticks. With Keon Coleman, give me your take. You were just talking about what do the Bills do with Keon Coleman? They've benched him for disciplinary reasons. They've benched him on a short week because they've wanted to stay with the hot hand. When that group proved to be more outlier than hot, they put Keon Coleman back in, and then today they sat him back down. Less of, I think this discussion, I want this to be of what do the Bills do with Keon Coleman right this second next week against Philly, but where are they long-term with this guy they invested a fairly high draft asset into?
I mean, it doesn't seem like they feel like he's a long-term guy.
That's the answer. I think,
he's sat 3 games? This was his 4th or his
third game he sat. Second one where it was more coach's decision than anything.
I mean, you're sitting your first-round draft pick out of last year, someone who was okay in his rookie season. I mean, didn't stand out great, but didn't, wasn't like a total tank of this is a waste of a pick. And now it's his second year, and this is kind of the trajectory he's gone on. I mean, on top of the fact that he hasn't performed, the disciplinary issues are a bigger issue. And it just doesn't seem like this team wants to invest in him long term. And I mean, up until this point, he hasn't really proven that they should. I mean, it's just another into this receiving mix and all of this, what is going on with this receiving room. I mean, Keon Coleman I don't know what they do with Keon Coleman, because it seems like he's kind of at a standstill as to where this team is at. And it seems like too, when you hear his like post game interviews or whatever, he doesn't seem invested in the team either. Honestly, he seems kind of just like, well, this is what's happening, and I'm just here. So I have no idea. I don't know
how much the post game interviews play into the discussion at One Bills Drive over what to do with him in the future, but I think it's got to be a part of the discussion. Because you're right, he has not looked engaged when it comes to that kind of stuff. I don't know again how that much that matters. The thing with Keon for me is that when you look at this receiving group and you think of how do we get more out of it, to me, the easiest way to get more out of it, like I've said a bunch of times, is you get Keon to play better because he's the guy in this group that has, you would think, upside remaining, upside available. Yeah. So we'll talk more about this in a minute. Right now, Sean McDermott at the podium. We go back to Cleveland for that.
Great job, Bills Mafia, showing up. Only a short trip, but we definitely heard them. Even last night when we came into town, so I really appreciate their support. Want to point out a couple guys. James Cook, another 100-yard effort. Obviously not just one guy in terms of when that happens, but he's having a great season, 9th, I believe, of the season. Dion, up against a challenge today, big-time challenge, and able to keep Miles at bay. I think he got one or half a one, so it's great competition there by those two guys and the O-line overall. And then Greg Rousseau, big-time production today, as well as Jordan Poyer on the defensive side, and then DQ getting his first interception. The stops in the second half, in particular the fourth quarter, were big for the defense. 2 takeaways overall for the game, leading to 9 points by the offense. So offensively, I thought we started well. Second half, not so much. Defensively, didn't start as well. Came back in the second half and did some things to help us win the game there, obviously. Toughness of overall the football team, good to see, but still plenty to work on. So we need to do the basic things better. You asked me what that is. I'll start with basic fundamentals, and then it'll go into executing, the plays, the scheme, what have you. So, but all in all, good to get a win. We'll take it, and we've got a lot of work to do as we move forward this week.
Can you talk about Greg Rousseau's performance? He pretty much that fourth quarter, he kind of dominated.
Yeah, that was huge. We needed that from Greg. We believe that he can do that. He can impact the game. So it's good to see him get back in that mindset. The grounding call was huge. Forcing that late in the game, backing him up, and then being able to win the game in 4 minutes on the offensive side. The play to Jackson Halls was critical for us right there. Jax did a great job, Josh as well, and then getting the quarterback sneak to end it pretty much.
You had said a few weeks ago, Sean, somebody asked you about Greg and his season. We've been a little bit frustrated with that. Do you think, today obviously, but have you seen something come around with him?
Well, it's not that he hasn't been trying. He's been giving great effort. Greg's built that way. He's a very conscientious young man. I think when you just go back and look at it, hey, we felt like we had a chance to get after their O-line a little bit today. They've got some guys out. But having said that, it takes, the physicality in one's rush. And it takes all 4 guys to do that as well. So, but his production today was certainly significant and needed and felt, as you saw it down the stretch there.
Coach, I know you're not going to be satisfied with your run defense today, but for the second straight week, your defense is coming up with critical plays at critical moments. What does that signify to you when you see your defense when they have to make a play? They're making a play?
Well, it's like Greg. Sal asked about Greg. Those are big-time plays that Greg made for us, and we need that every week. We've talked before about getting home with 4. Being able to get home with 4, not just on third down, but also first and second. And then in this case, they went for it on fourth down. We were able to get off the field there, get the ball to our offense in scoring position. So, again, do we need it to be more consistent? Yes. You can't allow a team to do what they did. So we're continuing to push. We've got to continue to push to give ourselves a chance to win the game. And the turnovers, the takeaways have been big for us as well. So in addition to the adjustments by the staff in the fourth quarter in particular, and the guys showed up and they made the plays they needed to make.
The touchdown run by James in the first half, the first 2 was phenomenal individual effort. Just how big was his efforts?
You talk about when he was reaching. Did he reach on that?
No, the long one.
Oh, the long one.
Yeah, I mean, they were both good, but the long one especially.
Yeah. I mean, we knew we were going to have to be able to run the football. If you drop back and throw it every player too much, right? And it's Miles, he's going to win some of those. So we felt like we had to be able to run the football, be two-dimensional, and usually when you have a run like that, the big one you're talking about, Jay, you've got wide receivers blocking down the field, which is a good thing for us as well, something we pride ourselves in.
Third down, coach, on offense, what made it so tricky today?
Well, I thought in the first half we were doing a good job of winning first down. We only, I believe, had 2 third downs in the first half, so we were doing what we intended to do in the first half. In the second half, we ended up with 3 for 8, I believe it was. So too many third and longs. I think the average I have it down is 7 yards. So we go from almost no third downs to a handful or more, and then they're not shorter third downs or longer third downs. So again, when you face a great pass rushing unit like this, it makes it hard to convert in those windows.
John, you obviously wins the win. The wide receivers again really giving up. Not that the passing league did a whole lot today, but again, another day where your wide receivers just, I know they're blocking, but they're not catching, which is kind of important. What do you need there?
Well, just overall as a team, that being one area, I would say, Sal. Defensive, we've talked about that. Special teams, we had some kind of things today that didn't go the way they need to go. So, like I said, the work continues. We've got to continue to improve as a football team if we want to continue to win moving forward. So that's the summary for you. A lot to be happy about. You celebrate a win, especially this time of year, a lot to be grateful for. That said, there's plenty. Let's just start, listening one thing at a time, the things we've got to work on. And the guys know that. It means a lot to our guys. They work hard, the staff as well. So we go back to work and trying to make sure that we improve in the areas we need to.
Sean, is there any long-term concerns about Josh's foot? Is that something you've talked to the training staff yet?
I don't have a follow-up yet from Nate. Josh, seems like he's in good spirits in there. We'll see as we go. I'm sure they'll have further evaluations that they'll get to me.
Did you get the sense that he was impacted at all in the second half by it?
Josh isn't one to lead on. If he is, he's so tough, so competitive. It's hard to tell what's really going on inside of that heartbeat of his. He just loves being out there with his teammates. So looked like he threw the ball, well, but outside of that, I don't have a great feel for where he's at right now because I just haven't had. I visited with him shortly, but not long enough yet.
You said the pass rush was going to be key because their offensive line's down a bit.
Yeah, they were down a couple guys.
Is that why you wanted to blitz as much as you did, though, Sean?
Yeah, yes and no. Just once in a while you got a blitz to send some reinforcements, and I thought Bobby did a good job with that. A couple things we could execute better when the blitz was dialed up there, but it certainly adds to what you do.
Coach, prior to Shaq getting hurt, it looked like Terrell was coming in base sets, play base, with Shaq still staying at middle. Just the decision there to kind of go that way.
In terms of that plan initially coming into the game,
initially.
It's good to have TB back out there. He's one of our big-time leaders. He has a C on his chest. And he came in and ended up playing really the remainder of the game at a certain point there. So it's every man up this every week. So you got to be ready to go. And he stepped in, and I thought did a real nice job. Well, I think Jordan Poyer. I don't know the extent of it yet, but Jordan Poyer, I believe, was not available. We had to go out there again. All right, thank you guys. Jordan's. Yeah, can you play? You can? Yeah,
Is that it?
That's it for this room, yeah.
Sean McDermott, little side conversation at the end there, but almost buried the lead a little bit. Not a huge lead, but Jordan Poyer with a hamstring injury. So certainly an injury. You just talked about how impactful he was in this game. So coming out of that, going forward, whether Jordan Poyer is available for the Eagles game and beyond will be a question. And look, when you're counting on guys like Matt Milano, Jordan Poyer, Jordan Phillips, Trey White to an extent, the OGs, as it were, this is what's going to happen. These are not guys who are built, who are as young as they used to be. Obviously, no one is, that are going to be able to assumably or to be assumed that they'll be available all the time. So a concern for sure going forward. Couple different things I want to hit on coming out of that, and I'll let you throw anything out that you have too. Remember, you're watching Rochester First. This is the Bills post-game show, BKL Nightly, our game day recap edition. We'll be on until 5 p.m. If you want to contribute, you can post comments to the post-game show post on X, on my X feed, DadBrown7, or to the News 8 Facebook page. We will get to some of those a little later on. The thing that I really, among the different things that were talked about in this, was the emphasis on how good the run game was, which is all well and good, like we talked about. In the first half, it was great. It was dominating. In the second half, James Cook had 17 yards. This team as a whole had 31 yards in the second half. I was just going through the play-by-play while listening to Sean McDermott there. So in the world of stats, they have what are now successful and unsuccessful plays. Simply put, it's 40% of what you need to get on first down. So most of the time it's 4 yards on first and 10. 60% on second down. Then on third down, you got to convert it because anything less than that is obviously not successful. The Bills in the second half had 4 successful running plays, which is ridiculously low. 50% is great. The Bills were one of 2. They were somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 of 10, maybe 4 of 11. I'll have to count it back up again. But only having 4 against this Browns defense is underlining what some of the issue was with the Bills offense. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't move the ball. They had they scored 3 points in the whole second half, and that was off of a short field where they went nowhere after a deflected interception. One of the other things that I don't like about the way the second half went offensively is that the Bills had 3 different possessions where they went run, pass off the field. First possession of the second half, run, pass, punt. The next possession, off that interception, run, pass, field goal. After that, they started with a big throw, hit a couple runs, and then missed on the 4th down. Then the third possession of the second half, run, pass, sack, punt. So 3 of your first 4 possessions were the rudimentary football strategy of run, get nothing, okay, now we'll throw, and now we're off the field, which the Browns don't do a whole lot well, but it plays right in their strategy when going back to those 3 possessions. So they had 3rd and 9, 3rd and 4, 4th and 4. What was the one before that? Oh, I'm sorry, that was the good possession. 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 4. That's what the Browns want. They want 3rd and long. They want you to be able to be in a situation where they can turn Myles Garrett loose. I don't know if that's on Joe Brady or the offensive line or the team as a whole, but certainly the offense, Rachel, wasn't doing what it was supposed to be doing in the second half of that game.
No, and this just goes back to, I feel like we've said the last couple of weeks, the Bills have yet to play a full game of football. Like they have one good half and one bad half. This one came the better half in the first half, which normally it's the other way around. I mean, the Browns defense started off the year well. We've talked about the last few weeks, they haven't been well. So I feel like that was the Browns defense we saw today that kind of is statistically better in some of those categories. But I mean, for the Bills, this just goes back to, we have yet to see really to me, what is this team capable of doing for an entire football game? I feel like we haven't seen the true, like, what is the scale of where the Bills are at or what the Bills are capable of doing. And I don't know if it's play calling. I mean, I'm sure people will blame Joe Brady and, come back to that as it always does, but it's just the Browns defense looked good today when they historically the last few weeks have not looked good. And if it's a fault at the Bills, I mean, I don't know. They kept Myles Garrett out of the conversation, but
half sack and that's it.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, everyone else kind of made the Bills look bad and the Browns look good.
But the Browns defense also looked good right after looking bad in this game.
Yeah.
They were getting run over in the first half and then somehow figured it out after that. Let me ask you a question, because it's something I brought up on X and something I was worried about going into the game. Bills coming off a huge emotional win over the Patriots. Comeback win. There was a lot of emotion and juice going into that game with battle for first place in the division, and then the kind of separate of the standings argument of, well, are the Patriots for real? Have they ascended to the number 1 spot? Are they better than the Bills? Everybody wanting to prove themselves. The Bills get down, they come back, they win. So you're coming off that big win. On top of that, this is the 4th road game the Bills have played in 5 weeks, which I don't care who you are, what kind of job you have. If you're traveling 4 times in 5 weeks, you ain't going to feel good about the last one. To me, they looked just flat. Some of the problems in this game were tackling issues we've seen before. The receivers not getting open we've seen before. But do you think this was a team that didn't have all the juice they normally do? And maybe even because of the team that was on the other side?
I think for sure. I mean, like you said, they come off a they come back from 21 points last week and get the win. And this is a Browns team where nobody thought it was going to be a threat at all. Like, we were sitting here talking about this, like we're making jokes about, oh, this could be a close game. Like it was a close game. I mean, I would think that they're changing up their offensive strategy a little bit, going with that receiver mix. Okay, I feel like I don't know. The whole game just felt like, well, we're here and it doesn't really matter kind of the outcome of this. The Browns were probably going to walk away with a win. And I do agree that they kind of fell flat. And I've said before, it feels like at certain times the Bills play down to their opponents. And not that we said too, I mean, the calls went the Bills' way. So it wasn't even that the Browns looked good. Like, the Browns just looked like a football team today. I mean, the Browns just
which might be the worst thing you can say about the Bills.
Yeah, which is like, I'm trying to figure out, okay, did the Browns just play well? Did the Bills not play well? Like, what was the combination of things that happened here that kind of made this closer than it was? But I do feel like they were a little bit flat. I mean, but I would expect that. I mean, you don't come into this game with the extra juice of last week, especially coming off of that win.
And not to excuse it, but there wasn't a whole lot of stakes on the line for this game for the Bills.
Exactly.
Really, the only thing that they do by winning this game is give themselves the opportunity to potentially lose next week's game if New England loses to Baltimore tonight. So it wasn't even like you get this if you win. It was, if you lose or if you win, then maybe you can lose next week. It's like three levels down the road. So there wasn't, again, the stakes weren't big. The opponent wasn't threatening. There are a lot of understandable reasons why the Bills may not have had the same juice they normally do. That doesn't mean that it's okay to do it, but it did look to me like they were not fighting. They were not. Normally, you get a team down to first, or the Bills defense, you get first and goal at the 1, first and goal at the 3, whatever that possession was when the Browns scored their last touchdown. Yeah. You see a Bills team really fighting and battling. They got the Browns off the field on the first and goal from the 4 early. And I didn't feel like I saw that on that possession.
Yeah, no.
And the other thing I wanted to bring up, you mentioned this just a minute ago. The Bills won this game by 3 and had virtually everything go their way.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I know I've said this like 3 times, but it's just a weird game. Like, this is just a weird outcome because the Bills, I mean, obviously there's glaring issues on defense. Even offensively, though, this feels like kind of the same offense. They couldn't get anything wrong in the second half, granted, but this feels like the same offensive strategy that they've been doing. I mean, it's been James Cook dominating the run game, and Josh Allen's been there doing whatever he wants to do, and the receivers haven't done anything. That's the same formula that we've seen all year. So it's like, okay, I mean, I don't know. It's just a weird outcome. I don't even know. I think the Browns just looked more like a football team, and the Bills didn't have like the extra juice to figure it out. And I think people expected to like a blowout victory, and it didn't happen. So I don't know. Just
I can live with not getting a blowout.
Yeah,
that's okay. The Browns play well, and there were parts of this where the Browns did play well. I thought Kevin Stefanski's game plan was good. The Browns were able to open some giant chunks in the ground game, which, hey, look, everybody does that to the Bills. That's what you're supposed to do. The reverse stuff was good. Shedeur Sanders, I thought, played confidently.
Than he did last
exactly.
week.
Made good decisions for the most part early in the game. So there were a number of things that the Browns did well. But going back to what you said about who the Bills are in terms of, well, the run game is good, Josh Allen's good, the receivers are not. We're done discussing about whether this is going to change. This is who the Bills are.
Yeah, exactly.
They have to manage their way around the fact that they're going to get probably nothing from the receiving group and hope that works. And in this game, if it weren't for 2 deflections landing in interceptions, probably both led to 3 points going in Buffalo's direction, 3 coming off the board for Cleveland, 3 going on the board for Buffalo. The Browns had their star running back have a serious knee injury at the end of the first half. The Jackson Hawes throw on second down at the very end of the game, which Sean McDermott gave Josh Allen credit for. I'll have to watch it again because on the broadcast copy, it looked like one of the dumbest things you possibly could have done there.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen was fortunate to get it in. So
that's a lot of Josh Allen plays, I feel like. I feel like a lot of Josh Allen plays, they happen.
When he was younger,
like,
yes.
And you're like, okay, superhero, that was great. But then you look at it and you're like, that probably wasn't the greatest decision.
And there were a few of those here for sure.
Yeah.
Now, the Bills did have a couple drops. We talked about the Brandon Cooks one briefly. The Dawson Knox one in the end zone that would have sealed the game. And this conversation's a little bit different for sure if the final's 30-20 instead of 23-20, which is what it should have been on that play. So there were moments where the Bills didn't have everything go their way, but still the breaks heavily leaned in Buffalo's favor, and they still needed to win this one by just 3 points.
Yeah. And to your point, I mean, you said this is their identity now. Okay, I feel like maybe I need to like realize that every time I come on here, I'm like, well, this isn't going this way and this is what's happening. But yeah, this does seem like it's their identity. And I mean, they only won by 3 points over the Cleveland Browns. So where are they at?
Let's talk for a minute here about, that's funny you said that. Now I'm thinking about it. Where are they at? I think they are who they are. They're a team that, and actually, you know what, before I move on to a different topic, it reminded me of something else I want to talk about. You brought up the Bills playing down to their opponent. I don't know if I believe in that anymore. I've thought about that a lot lately. I don't think a team plays down to their opponent. Now, maybe a team isn't ready to play up to their own level because of who the opponent is. I might be splitting hairs a little bit there. But I don't think a team plays poor just because the opponent is poor. The team plays poor because they play poor. So to me, that's not an excuse. The Bills played a bad game. They're not, they played down to their opponent. That doesn't mean they're automatically going to play up to their next opponent. That they've still, the other part of it is, it shows that they have the ability to play at that low level, that the dispersion, like in golf, we always think about, if I'm not going to hit every ball straight down the middle, right? The thing I'm trying not to do, though, is hit balls in a 45-degree angle. And the more I can take that dispersion and close it up like this, the better player I'm going to be. Same goes for any sports teams, but football teams too. If I have this really good game, which I had playing the last 35 minutes against New England, that's awesome. But I also have this game over here, which got me beating Atlanta, which got me beating Miami, and made me look really poor against Cleveland. You worry about how good a football team is because your dispersion is still pretty wide.
And that's just been, I think, the story of the Bills this year. Like, where we've seen their highest of highs coming back from being down 21-0, and then you see them lose games. You see them beat a Cleveland team by 3 on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. It's just and we're getting to the point in the season where, okay, we're going to find out real fast, like, where this team can go. I mean, they're going to be in the playoffs and see what they do there. But I mean, I don't know.
That's the concern with this team, is that because the floor for this team, Tim Graham talked about it on Bills Kickoff Live today. He said, I think this is the worst team the Bills have had in the Josh Allen McDermott era, or maybe he means the last 4 or 5 years. I don't know if he's right about that. I was thinking about it too. I think there are a number of areas where the Bills might be better than they were last year. It's a really tough argument. Regardless, because the floor for this team is so low, and because you see that floor so many times, it's very hard to get excited about the idea they're going to go out and win 3 straight road games in January to get to a Super Bowl. And the only reason I think we're still entertaining it is because there's not a juggernaut of an offense led by Lamar Jackson in Baltimore like there was last year, or there wasn't a Patrick Mahomes never loses in the playoffs thing available in the playoffs this year. And the only reason we think the Bills can do it is because nobody trusts Drake May and Bo Nix in a big spot, which is fair. It doesn't mean the Bills are a better team or even an equal team to what they were in previous years.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Like you said, we've said this so many times. It's just, what is this Bills team? We know their identity, but like, what is the caliber of this team? We don't know. There's such like opposite ends of what they've done this year.
The thing that Sean McDermott talked about, I want to spin this back to a little bit of the positive of this game, about this defense making big time plays, and that he said those are things that we need every week. And he said, look, do we need to be more consistent? Yes. We've addressed that point, I think, sufficiently in the last few minutes here. But the defense is stepping up when they have to.
But they keep having to.
That's a fair point. But before we get back to that, give the defense credit for, we talked about Greg Rousseau earlier in the show, the sacks, the safeties. But this defense as a whole, it wasn't just those guys. At the very end there, yes, Greg Rousseau forces an intentional grounding to get the Browns back into 4th and forever, 3rd and forever from their own goal line. But you got to cover there to make that work. So assumably the secondary is having its own impact on it. I'll go back to the Patriots game, which I have had a chance to look at film of, and the way the Bills covered in the second half of that game was really, really good, and a big part of why they were able to continually get New England off the field. You can easily giant caveat this with, wow, who do they cover? Jerry Jeudy and Mac Hollins? Woo! But they were still making the plays when they had to. On that specific point, Rachel, even if the opposition is not very good, and now I was about to say a group they won't see in the playoffs, but they very well could see that New England group in the playoffs. How much encouragement do we get from the fact that against Cincinnati, they find a way to create a pick six? Against Pittsburgh even, a sack fumble for a touchdown. New England last week, a bunch of 3 and outs. In this game, a couple sacks big. I do think that you can build that up into something that can be repeatable, even if, when we'll get to them, there are a giant group of butts to discuss after that.
Overall, it's a good thing that your defense can do that in those moments. But I mean, like we said, we could discuss. It's just, they continually have to keep doing that. And I feel like like in the last maybe, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 weeks, we haven't seen a win where they like haven't had to do that. It feels like they have to do that every single week. And that's where I'm kind of at is why does that keep happening? I mean, where are the whole, I mean, we know where the holes are and we know the defense is struggling and there's no receivers and we can talk about that a million times, but the fact that the defense has to keep doing that isn't sustainable to me. But it also, like I said, it has kind of been sustainable in a way that the Bills get in these situations and then they claw their way out of the hole and then they get back in the game. I mean, they've done it, like you said, Cincinnati, they did it against the Patriots. So it's like, okay, this isn't sustainable, but it's working for them. So this is their identity, but where does that stop? Like, when does that stop working? But I think it's a good thing overall to have the mindset, okay, we're down this amount or we need to, in these big moments. Okay, that's great. I mean, it gives Bills fans, I mean, at least like the cushion of, well, we're down, but we can stop that. Or this Browns offense might rally back in this drive. Well, we're not going to let that happen. And that's a good thing to have. But at what point does that not work is kind of where I'm at. I
get what you're saying. And the easy explanations about why has it worked? Well, you're playing Pittsburgh and Cincinnati with a terrible defense and the Browns with a rookie quarterback and on their second running back and their 8th and 9th and 10th offensive linemen. That's why those things have worked in those games. We don't think that's going to work if it's going to be Denver and Houston and New England in 3 straight weeks. So they're getting away with it now. But I love the point you're making about the defense continually has to get into this spot. They don't bury a team early. They buried a team, the Steelers, in the third quarter with a couple of interceptions. The other part of this too is, as we referred to about this game, but you can take about this entire stretch, there's been a number of fluky things that have gone Buffalo's way. Those 2 interceptions against the Bengals, Christian Benford makes a great play, but that's a play where if you run that 100 times, you're not picking off Joe Burrow from 2 feet away. And then now, between that game and this game, they've had 3 interceptions that have been deflected balls that have gone straight up in the air. Give the Bills credit for getting hands on balls. And even the first one in this game wasn't a deflection that the Bills created. It was because the Browns weren't in sync and Shedeur Sanders throws the ball off Quinshon Judkins' shoulder pad and ends up in Jordan Poyer's hands. So not only has the opposition been not great and not what they will see in January, one would think that the luck and the good fortune that has happened, that has gone the Bills' way in these last few weeks, will not also repeat in the playoffs.
You would think, but I mean, they keep
But it has to keep going. You're right. We're on 4 wins in a row here. I want to go back to something quick here, some more minutia points of this game. The Dalton Kincaid challenge on the throw that was down the sideline where he almost had his toes in, even though it was not overturned, and I thought that was the correct call. I do think it was a good challenge by Sean McDermott. It made sense. It was a big spot. It was going to create a 1st and goal as opposed to a 3rd and long. And it wasn't a situation where I think you're wasting a timeout. I think you're in a good spot in the game to challenge it there. And it was razor close. So Sean McDermott has not been great historically with his challenges. He's been better this year. That one, to me, was another mark in his favor.
What was the result of that drive?
I can give you that in a second. Hold on. I think the Bills ended up, I think that might have been the go for it and then fail. Okay. I don't have that score handy in front of me here.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good challenge. I don't disagree with that. I think
it's the one where they failed. Let me see if it is here.
When they went for it on 4th and 2?
Nope, that's not that one. Maybe it was in the first half. I will find it. I will find this play. Not that one.
Was it in the first half? There's.
Oh yeah, here. No, yeah, it was right after second half. It was right after the Daquan Jones interception. So it was. So it was 2nd and 8. They throw the deep ball. It would have been, I don't know. They don't say here what the yardage, the yard line. It would have been like 1st and goal around the 6. So you're up 23-10, seemingly in control of the game to where you don't need to save timeouts. Yeah. It looked like there was a good chance that it might have been in. Again, it was a solid challenge. It made a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, did Sean McDermott have his glasses on today or not?
No glasses today. I know it's
I
been
think
a
that's
thing.
a good sign. No, I mean, it was a good call. I mean, yeah, I don't have much to add to it except for I do agree that it's a good spot to do it.
Like we said, you can contribute to this discussion on the News 8 Facebook page. Let me read a couple comments here and you can react to this. I love this one. Scott of the North. After the ups and downs of this game, someone needs to wash my mouth out with soap. Little Christmas Story reference there. It does feel like that a little bit, that this game was icky. It was a win.
Yeah.
It was a win, but you do feel like as a Bills fan, you might need to get a little shower from this afterward because they're just, what is, and maybe to this point, Rach, if you're a Bills fan, what are you holding on to out of this game where you think, well, that actually went well and I feel good about that going forward? Probably the run game, even though it was just the first half, James Cook in general.
Game, probably James Cook in general. I mean, that might be the only thing. And then, like we said, the defense is making the big plays when they need to make it. Greg Rousseau, I think, especially too. I mean, we said a few weeks ago that I said, where is Greg Rousseau? Like, we haven't seen much of him. So that was a good, performance from him. But probably the run game would be the one thing that maybe stands out. But we also have known that James Cook is James Cook. So I don't know.
Right. You're not learning anything new there. John Sullivan pointed out that Josh just torpedoed a bunch of fantasy playoff teams. That's 100% true. If you have Josh Allen in fantasy today, I'm sorry that your season's over because it probably is. Josh Allen, for the record, 130 yards passing, 17 yards rushing, no touchdowns, no interceptions. So in most leagues where you get 1 point for every 20 or 25 passing yards, Josh Allen had like 8 points today. Yeah, so your season's probably over unless you had Chris Olave or Puka Nacua or something like that. Let me go back to the comments here. This is a good one we should talk about. George, and we brought it up briefly, George Desmond Blackman, Stonehands Knox strikes again. Dawson Knox, for the longest time, was a guy who had issue with drops, to the point where I remember going into one season 3 or 4 years ago, we talked a lot about how he was doing work with bouncing tennis balls off of walls, doing special programs over the summer to improve eye-hand coordination. And for the most part this year, he's been good. And we
just talked about him last week as positive out of last week.
And one of the things that I think I brought up in my column on RosterFirst.com was that the drops have not been an issue. In this game, it could have been a killer. This was the kind of thing. And to me, the larger point here is, and you can go somewhere else with this if you want, the larger point with this is when you're the Bills and you're not getting anything out of your receiving core, and now you have to count on Ty Johnson, running backs, tight ends to make your plays, you're going to put Dawson Knox in a spot where over and over and over, you got to get production out of him. And I think historically with Knox, we've discovered that if you give him 10 targets, one of them is probably going to end up like that one ended up today.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I just said last week, I mean, my positive up was, the tight end room being able to be productive when the receivers aren't. And I mean, Jackson Haas had a good day today. Kincaid's still not fully healthy, but whatever. I mean,
he might not be at all. We'll talk about that in a second. Go ahead.
The last few weeks we've said, okay, Dawson Knox, you're actually being productive in the fact that Kincaid hasn't been there or hasn't been fully healthy when he is active. And then he does that today. And like you said, it could have been a game changer. Luckily it wasn't, but yeah, not the stone cold hands or whatever the comment was is pretty accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've seen that before from Knox. And the hope is that that stuff will be less needed going forward. Let's go to Dalton Kincaid real quick though. Sean McDermott said this week that the knee injury that he was on the injury report this week wasn't anything he suffered this year. This is something he's still working on from last year. 2 parts to this discussion. Let's go with the more immediate stuff first. Do the Bills ever get Dalton Kincaid back healthy? And I know you're not a doctor, so you probably can't really get into that one. But I think more importantly, how vital is it that at some point Dalton Kincaid maybe doesn't go to the guy who had 100 yards against the Patriots, but is close enough to where he can, you said earlier, why hasn't anybody in the receiving corps stepped up? Dalton Kincaid has had moments. Can he have one of those moments? And I'll go back to how important is it that at some point he has one of those moments again?
I don't think we're going to see a fully healthy version of Dalton Kincaid for the rest of the season. I mean, it's been 2 weeks he's been active. He wasn't active for a few games before that, and it was 2 different injuries. I mean, I don't think we're going to see a healthy version of him, and I think because of that, we're not going to see a 100-yard game or whatever that, breakout performance that we said earlier in the season was from him. I mean, he was Josh Allen's top target for a while, and he is the reliable guy, but I don't think we're going to see that for the rest of the season, even though as much as the Bills probably need to and have somebody step up and be that, I just don't think we're going to see it.
I worry that if Kincaid is going to be that guy, and I think it seems like a reasonable assumption right now, that I don't think this Bills team has enough to go all the way in January. Or let's put it this way. What is now the path for this team? Let's say Kincaid is like this the rest of the year. Mm-hmm. The path for this team is run the ball really well all the time. They had 164 yards rushing today. You probably got to be within 20 of that for all 4 games, 3 games in the playoffs. You need Josh Allen to be ridiculous. And he wasn't, and we haven't talked enough about that. Josh had some misses, even admitted it too. And then you need your defense. yeah, they're going to give up a bunch of stuff, but you need them to create deflected interceptions. You need them to get a sack out of Greg Rousseau when it absolutely matters. It feels like that's such a small margin of error formula for a team, especially with a quarterback as ridiculous as the one they have.
It is. I mean, when you're relying on basically James Cook is the centerpiece of this offense, other than Josh Allen, who hasn't had, he's had his superhero moments, but he hasn't had consistent, I mean, like today, like we said, it wasn't a great game for him. I don't think you can rely on James Cook through an entire postseason run. I just don't see that happening because as much as he's had great games and 100+ yard games, it's just not a consistent formula. Like I've said a few times, it's just not sustainable to me. And I think even back, was it one of the coordinators that said that they don't need a wide receiver one? I don't even remember who.
Yes, that's Joe Brady. Joe Brady
said
that a few times.
I wasn't sure if it was Brady or but it feels like you do need a top pass catcher to be successful and go with the goal of having the Super Bowl. Like you can't just get by with James Cook. I don't think James Cook is the answer of, well, if James Cook has 100+ rushing yards each game, then we're fine. I just don't think that's the answer.
Doesn't feel like they can do that, especially if you're going to play the Broncos and the Texans and defense is that ridiculous to be able to do that over and over. I think the longer term part of Kincaid, and we'll talk about this more February, March, April, all that stuff, it makes it harder to feel good about giving him a long-term contract when he is having so much trouble answering the bell this year and last year and what would be the prime years of his rookie deal. I want to mention one guy quick as I'm going back through my notes, someone who also had a good game that we don't talk about enough, at least in terms of splash plays, but Deion Walker was noticeable in this game. Couple of pass breakups. He was active again, getting his hands up in front of Shedeur Sanders. And look, if he's not going to necessarily be a run stuffer all the time, if you can actually take your 6'7" frame and turn it into like 9 feet when you put your arms in the air, that's going to be a benefit. And it came up and was a positive in a couple different spots today. So again, with this defense, where you're not going to get shut down defense, but just a few plays here and there, 96 to me was another guy where some of those plays were made. Taron Johnson, I got on here, had a couple of good tackles, stuff like the coverage. We'll have to go back and watch the film. I know fans hate to hear that, but it's really the only way to see that. Tackling was an issue today. That was another small thing I want to get to quick. Again, I don't know how much of that was effort or being flat-based, but this team that kind of comes and goes with its ability to tackle, this felt like a down game again today.
I was going to say, we've talked about this a lot this year, just tackling when it comes to the fundamentals. Like Sean McDermott said, we got to work on the fundamentals. That's for sure one of them. It was 4 different Browns running backs had like double-digit rushing. So names I haven't even heard of, and I'm sitting here watching Cleveland games each week. Like I'm like, who are these guys? So yeah, tackling for sure is something that they need to fix.
Got a couple minutes here. Let me throw this at you quick. As the Browns fan in the room, give me your take on this game. Anywhere you want to go with it.
Okay, as the Browns fan in me, I'm happy with this for the Browns. I mean, the Browns have nothing to lose, have nothing to gain at this point of the season. So for them to hang with the Bills, who obviously the Bills have their issues, and maybe it's more of the Bills' issues and the Browns looking good. They hung with the Bills. I'll take it as a Browns fan. As a Bills reporter and analyzing this from different angles, I mean, I think we did say that this was going to be a letdown, I think is how you described it, for the Bills. And that's exactly what it was. I mean, we kind of assumed this going into this game. The game's on the road. This Bills team, not that they play down, but it's just there's challenges with the Browns, and you have this Bills team that can fall flat in certain places. So, I mean, it's a disappointment to, I guess, probably Bills fans of the outcome of this game. And there's a lot of glaring issues, but these are the same issues that we've seen all year. So, I mean, it's not a great look, but I don't think this is, I don't know. Is this fully a full picture of what the Bills are? I don't know.
This has been a lot of what they've been all year. I think the things that weren't the same, Josh Allen had a bad game for him.
Exactly, yeah.
Even separate of the really dumb throw to Jackson Hawes. He just missed there was the third, fourth down combination. He talked about the third down play. I thought he missed the fourth down play too. You're going to have games like that. I don't care how good you are as a quarterback. You're going to miss a few here and there. So that to me was maybe the one of more notable things. Tackling was worse than normal. They did get pass rush out of Greg Rousseau, but not Joey Bosa. So overall, I think we've kind of underlined this point often enough that the big problem with the Bills here is that who they've been all year is who they were largely in big parts of this game.
Yeah.
The team that gets nothing out of the receiving core, gets inconsistent play from the defense, but enough to win a game. They did win a game here. All right, everybody have a Merry Christmas. We're going to be back on this show on Monday and Tuesday, and then we will take the rest of the week off for the Christmas break.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.